Have you ever wondered why life feels harder the more you try to control it? Why some people, who seem completely relaxed, somehow receive exactly the things you've been chasing so desperately? Love, recognition, success. It's as if there's an invisible law of life. The tighter you hold on, the more everything slips away. The more you worry, the more reasons you find to worry. The harder you try to control everything, the less control you actually have. We grew up believing, care more, push harder, plan better, then it will all work out. But the truth is the opposite. Life often begins to flow only when you stop forcing it. Picture this. You walk into a job interview. You want to be perfect. Every word, every gesture, rehearsed in your head. Your smile feels stiff. Your voice uncertain. The person across from you senses it immediately. Something is off. Now, imagine the same interview, but this time you think, I'm here to see if this job is right for me, not just if I'm right for it. Suddenly you're calmer, more present, more authentic. Your words carry weight because you're not clinging to the outcome. It's the same with relationships. The more you cling to someone, the faster they slip away. But the moment you let go, closeness appears naturally, as if by magic. It sounds paradoxical, but psychology explains it clearly. When we cling too hard, our brain activates its threat system. Stress hormones flood our body. Our thinking narrows. Our energy feels desperate. In this state, we lose what makes us magnetic: creativity, calmness, authenticity. But the moment we release the grip, something shifts. The nervous system relaxes, our thoughts become fluid, our presence natural. People sense it instantly. Calmness attracts, desperation repels. This is where Michel de Montaigne becomes timeless. He lived in the chaos of the 16th century. Wars, disease, uncertainty. Yet instead of collapsing under the weight of it all, he stepped back and began to observe. His radical discovery was this: the problem is not the world itself. The problem is how tightly we cling to it. Montaigne realized that freedom doesn't come from controlling everything. Freedom begins when you admit that you never really had control, and that this is perfectly fine. We trap ourselves because we think life must be flawless. We want to say the right words, look the right way, make the perfect choices. But life is not a chessboard where every move can be calculated. Life is a river, and if you try to hold water in your hands, you always end up empty. You've probably heard the phrase, let go, and it will come to you. Often dismissed as a cliche, but behind it lies deep psychological truth. When you stop fighting the current, you start to flow with it. And that's when things begin to fall into place. Montaigne never pretended to have all the answers. He admitted his fears, his weaknesses, his mistakes. He turned himself into an experiment, and in doing so, he discovered a way of living that was lighter, freer, more human. And this is what makes his philosophy powerful for us today, in a world louder, faster, and more demanding than ever before. So the question is not whether you care enough. The question is, do you dare to care less? Why is it so hard to let go? Why do we cling to things, to people, to identities, even when they're the very things that make us miserable? The answer lies deep in our wiring. The human brain craves certainty. It wants stability, patterns, predictability. What we already know feels safer than what we don't. And so, we hold on, even when the familiar drags us down. We stay in jobs that drain our spirit. We cling to relationships that no longer nurture us. We keep living inside versions of ourselves that no longer fit. Why? Because the pain of the known often feels less terrifying than the risk of the unknown. But this is exactly where suffering begins. Psychologists call it rumination, the endless replaying of worries and regrets in our minds. Instead of solving problems, rumination magnifies them. The more we think, the heavier the burden feels. It's like a rope we keep tightening around our own neck. Philosophers have recognized this for centuries. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of all suffering. The Stoics reminded us that pain doesn't come from events themselves, but from our clinging to them. And Montaigne, he wasn't a monk or a Stoic warrior. He was a man observing life in all its chaos. His wisdom was softer. Don't fight the uncontrollable. Don't cling to what slips away. Don't obsess over what you cannot change. To him, letting go wasn't resignation. It was liberation. Think of it this way. If you try to control how everyone perceives you, you will never be free. People will always judge, no matter what you do. The moment you stop caring about controlling their opinion, something shifts. You walk lighter, speak clearer, live freer. Or in love. If you cling to someone out of fear, you suffocate the very bond you want to preserve. But if you give space, if you trust, closeness has room to breathe. Letting go doesn't mean apathy. It means reclaiming your energy from battles you can never win. Montaigne embodied this spirit. He wrote about his weaknesses, his illnesses, his fears, not to impress, but to unburden himself. He laughed at his own flaws. He accepted that uncertainty was part of being alive. And by doing so, he became free. In a world that told him to control, he chose to release. In a culture that demanded certainty, he embraced doubt. That was his quiet rebellion. And here's the truth. Our modern world makes letting go even harder. Social media thrives on clinging to likes, to status, to constant comparison. Work culture pushes us to maximize every hour, optimize every trait, polish every flaw. Everywhere the same message. Care more, do more, be more. But what if that's the very trap? What if the real strength lies in daring to care less? Because when you let go, you don't lose control. You finally stop wasting it. This is the freedom Montaigne whispers to us across centuries. You don't need to grip tighter. You don't need to fight every fight. You don't need to be perfect. Life will not collapse if you release your grip. In fact, it's only then that you'll see how beautifully things fall into place. It sounds insane at first. If you stop caring, life gets easier. If you stop chasing, the very thing you wanted starts moving toward you. If you stop obsessing over being seen, suddenly people notice you. But this paradox shows up everywhere. Think of athletes. The greatest performances don't happen under the heaviest strain. They happen when pressure dissolves into flow. A runner who stiffens up runs slower. A basketball player who overthinks misses the shot. But when they release the weight of fear, when the game feels effortless, something clicks. Movement becomes art. Precision becomes instinct. Or artists. A musician who tries too hard to be perfect sounds mechanical. But the moment they surrender to the music, something alive emerges. Their flaws become part of the beauty. The audience feels it, not because it's flawless, but because it's real. And in everyday life, you felt it. That job interview where you rehearsed every line, awkward. That date where you tried to be impressive, flat. But in those moments when you simply showed up as yourself without forcing it, suddenly things flowed. Psychology gives us the answer. When you cling, your body enters survival mode. Stress hormones take over. Your thinking narrows. Your creativity shuts down. Desperation leaks through every gesture, every word. When you let go, your nervous system relaxes. Your brain unlocks creativity, flexibility, presence. You stop living as a bundle of nerves and start moving like water. That's when flow happens. That's when you shine. Montaigne didn't use words like stress hormones or flow states, but he saw the same truth in his own life. He realized that the tighter he fought against chaos, the heavier life became. And the moment he surrendered to uncertainty, something miraculous happened. Freedom. His essays are filled with this gentle wisdom. He didn't claim to have conquered life. He admitted that he was full of doubts, full of fears, full of contradictions. But instead of letting them paralyze him, he allowed them to exist. He let go of the need to be perfect, and in doing so, became timeless. That is the heart of the paradox. Letting go isn't weakness, it's power. The person who doesn't beg for approval commands respect. The leader who doesn't micromanage inspires trust. The lover who doesn't cling creates space for intimacy. We think control equals strength, but often the strongest energy is the one that doesn't need to control. Look back at your own life. How many times have you suffered because you tried to force an outcome? How many times did things resolve themselves the moment you stopped pushing? How many moments of peace arrived not when you achieved more, but when you finally released your grip? Life has a strange way of rewarding trust. When you relax, you speak with clarity. When you stop demanding love, you radiate warmth. When you stop clinging to success, you discover the freedom to create, and that's when success finds you. Montaigne's philosophy points us to this truth. The world doesn't bend to our desperation. It bends to our calm. To let go is not to abandon life. It is to step into it fully, without fear. To stop grasping so tightly that we strangle the very things we long for. Letting go is the paradoxical door. Behind it lies not only peace, but also strength, influence, and attraction. It's one thing to say, stop caring. It's another to actually live it. How do you let go in a world that pressures you to prove yourself, optimize yourself, and constantly care what others think? The answer isn't in grand gestures, it's in small shifts, principles you can weave into your daily life. 1. Accept imperfection. Perfection is a myth, yet we spend endless energy trying to polish every word, every appearance, every decision. The result? Anxiety. We never feel enough. Montaigne dared to do the opposite. He openly wrote about his flaws, his fears, his illnesses, his laziness. He refused to hide his humanity. And that's exactly why his work feels so alive centuries later. When you allow yourself to be imperfect, you break free from the prison of constant self-judgment. Life stops being an exam, it becomes an experiment. 2. Turn inward. We waste so much energy trying to control how others see us. Every gesture, every post, every achievement becomes a performance. But no matter how hard you try, you will never own the opinions of others. Montaigne knew this. Instead of obsessing over appearances, he turned inward. He studied himself. He asked, "Who am I when no one is watching?" A simple practice. Spend time with your own thoughts. Write a journal. Go for a walk without your phone. Meditate not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself. The more you know who you are, the less you'll need the world's applause. 3. Learn to laugh at yourself. Most of our suffering comes from taking ourselves too seriously. Every mistake feels catastrophic. Every flaw feels unbearable. But laughter is freedom. Montaigne often joked about his own weaknesses. He mocked his vanity, his fears, even his clumsiness. By laughing, he disarmed them. Try it. The next time you stumble, ask yourself, if this happened to a friend, wouldn't I find it funny? Humor shrinks problems down to their real size. 4. Choose your battles. Not every hill is worth dying on. Yet we drain ourselves fighting for approval, for being right, for winning arguments that don't matter. Montaigne understood that peace comes not from fighting everything, but from choosing wisely. Some things are worth your energy, most are not. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? If not, why lose your peace today? 5. Practice the courage of doing nothing. Our world hates stillness. We're taught to hustle, to fill every moment, to prove our worth through constant motion. But emptiness is not waste, it's space. Montaigne retreated not to produce more, but simply to be. He read, reflected, wandered through his own thoughts. Out of that stillness came his timeless insights. Start small. Put your phone down. Sit in silence. Walk without a destination. In that pause, your mind clears, your heart breathes, and life begins to feel lighter. These principles aren't about abandoning life. They're about entering it more fully, not as a slave to fear or perfection, but as someone free to live, free to breathe, free to let go. And this is Montaigne's greatest gift to us. Freedom doesn't come from controlling more. Freedom comes from caring less. So you finally have space to care about what truly matters. Imagine a life where you don't feel the need to control every outcome. A life where you no longer measure yourself against every opinion, every glance, every fleeting judgment of others. A life where you stop treating yourself as a project to perfect and finally allow yourself to simply exist. It sounds almost impossible, but this is the freedom Montaigne discovered. Because when you stop caring about the wrong things, you create space for the right ones. Suddenly, you notice the simple details. The warmth of coffee in your hands, the sound of rain on a window, the smile of someone you love. These small things were always there. You were just too busy clinging, comparing, and worrying to feel them. Happiness isn't hiding at the end of a flawless plan. It lives in the present moment, in all the imperfect fragments we usually overlook. Letting go doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you alive. Less fear of judgment means more courage to be yourself. Less obsession with control means more energy for creativity. Less neediness means more genuine connection. And here lies the paradox. When you stop demanding recognition, you start earning respect. When you stop forcing love, closeness blossoms naturally. When you stop clinging to success, your work becomes lighter, freer, and true success finds you. Montaigne wasn't a saint or a guru. He was a man full of flaws, contradictions, and doubts, and that's what makes him timeless. He showed that you don't need to conquer life to live freely. You only need to stop gripping it so tightly. His lesson was simple, almost disarmingly so. Life doesn't collapse when you release your hold. It expands. So ask yourself, how much lighter would you feel if you let go of one expectation today? How much freer would you breathe if you stopped rehearsing every move, every word, every mistake? How much closer to peace would you be if you finally allowed life to unfold without constant interference? The world tells you, care more, work harder, worry endlessly. Montaigne whispers something different. Care less, trust more, laugh often. Because the truth is this: you don't lose yourself when you let go, you find yourself. And when you stop caring about controlling life, you finally discover that everything begins to fall beautifully into place.